My name is Marcus Thorne, and as Dean of Restorative Justice here at North Lawndale College Prep, I just want to say welcome. I wanted to first acknowledge Mr. Paul Norrington, whose incredible vision has brought us to the precipice of this hope. I also want to acknowledge the esteemed members of the Library Committee who have been putting in work for many, many days. Lastly, I'd like to speak to Mr. Obama. Mr. President, some have said that North Lawndale doesn't stand a chance at this library and that the deal is already done. They say that the library has to be in Hyde Park, in your backyard, they say. And I understand the reasons. The University of Chicago has the money, has acquired the land, has copious connections. Hyde Park is where you cut your teeth as an organizer. Hyde Park is your home. But Mr. President, if the library goes there, it will merely serve to extend the community that is already exceedingly strong. If, however, your library is built here in North Lawndale, it has the potential to establish real hope and to spur strength on Chicago's west side. Mr. President, where would your library have the least environmental impact and the greatest economic impact? Here in North Lawndale. Where are the children who would benefit most from the political engagement your library would bring? The children of lettered faculty at the lab school? No, sir. The greatest benefit will be realized for children here in North Lawndale. Which location would not simply utilize talented leaders, but reveal and develop them? Again, I say, Mr. President, that place, the right place, is right here in North Lawndale. Don't leave us for last, Mr. President. Consider us, remember us. Bring your library right here to us. Make the hope that was a cornerstone of your presidential campaign a concrete reality right here in our community. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Marcus. All right, I just realized you all don't know who I am, right? A lot of you actually do know possibly who I am. I'm Marcus de la Fleur. I'm a member of the North Lawndale Presidential Library Committee. And I have the honor to introduce Bobby Steele to you. She is a longtime resident of North Lawndale. She has been living in our community for more than 50 years. She was an elementary school teacher for 26 years right here in North Lawndale. And for 20 years she was Cook County Commissioner. And finally, for 4 months, she was the first woman president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners. She is currently retired and serves on the following: the president of the WOS. That's correct. Okay, I wasn't sure about that. Member of the board of the Illinois Counties Association. Is it member of the Lakeshore Links alumni? Is that correct? Lakeshore Ladies Golf Club, and an active member of the United Baptist Church. But most importantly, she was one of the very first supporters of this visionary idea. Please welcome Bobby Steele. Would you like to hold it?
Thank you very much. It's a delight to be here tonight and to see as many of you out on this dreary night. And it's not an auditorium field, but you know the good master only had 12 disciples. And he changed the world. So I don't worry about the crowd, I worry about the substance. What is it all about? And having lived in North Lawndale for over 50 years, I know what it used to be. I know, and if any of you in here that was here 50 years ago, as I was, you know what it used to be. It used to be a thriving community. It used to be a community of hope. And after the death of Dr. King, with all of the emotions, wild emotions, and Roosevelt Road was burned down, then we've gone downhill ever since. And considered by some not to have the ability to come back. I think it was the Atlantic Journal that dubbed us as the community with a millstone around its neck. But we are not down. We still think up. And although some of our people throw that trash out the windows when they drive down the street, there's still hope in Lawndale. Lawndale is the most accessible neighborhood in this city of Chicago. And we have land mass greater than the people on the south side that are vowing for this library. There's still hope, because there is a lot of ways to get in and out of this community. We have more arterial streets that run the full length of the city than any other community. We have streets, Roosevelt Road, that runs from downtown Chicago all the way through the west side of Chicago. That's an asset for good transportation. That's an asset for us getting downtown. And so Lawndale is rich in resources and people, because our people still have hope. And as I began to think about Lawndale, I began to say that that's the way people used to think about what good could come out of Jerusalem. But some good did come out of Jerusalem. So we still have hope. And I'd like to introduce someone who first spoke to me about the idea, and I thought he was kind of, you know. He said, I think since President Obama is coming out and the library has to be built in his honor, I think it ought to be built in Lawndale. Well, I wasn't too enthusiastic at the moment, but he kept saying it. And you know, and it began to grow on me. And that was Paul Norrington. He and I were on Lawndale Christian Development Board together, and every time he come to the board meeting, he was talking about the library. And so I began to think about it. That is possible. And everything that we see and feel started with what? An idea. And ideas not set to action is like a sun that never shines. So Paul started this idea to roll, and he touched this person and that person. And so I just like to bring him up tonight. He's a longtime resident of North Lawndale. As a matter of fact, his mother used to teach music in her home. She taught my oldest daughter to play the piano. I didn't know that when I met Paul, because I guess he was in the Army or somewhere while his mother was teaching music. But as we began to dialogue, I found out that Mrs. Norrington was his mother. She was a music teacher here in this community. And Paul went to Farragut High School, and he was a sheriff for 30 years. And I think he's like I am. I thought I was retired, but I'm beginning to believe I'm untired. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Paul Norrington to further explain what this initiative is all about. Paul.
Okay. I'm not a politician, I'm not a businessman. I was born in North Lawndale. I live in North Lawndale. The committee we brought together to pursue this dream either lives or works in North Lawndale. Many of them were also born here. This was a North Lawndale effort. This is what you have done. The thought may have come from one man, but the action came from you. We developed our own bid before approaching the University of Illinois as a much-needed partner. We would not be at this point without UIC, and UIC's bid needed us. This mutual need can be the basis for a unique community-university partnership going forward. On June 16th, there were 13 bids submitted by communities and institutions from across the country. On September 15th, the Obama Foundation announced the 4 finalists. the University of Hawaii, Columbia University in New York, the University of Chicago, and the North Lawndale UIC partnership. This was not something that was given to us. We stood on the field with giants, and North Lawndale still stands. Today, we're the only community-based bid remaining. I hope you're feeling a sense of pride right now. Now imagine our children growing up with that same sense of pride. Imagine how that will affect them in school and beyond. There are some who only see the library as the goal. That's fine, we need that focused effort. But there's something more at stake here, our community spirit. This is the moment. Now is when we raise our spirits so that we're prepared to benefit from all the library has to offer. And in the end, won't we be better off from that effort, whether we win or not? You did this, North Lawndale. And as a community, we can do more. We can win this thing. The power of community. Build it in North Lawndale. Thank you. Now, let's take a look at PowerPoint. What is a presidential library? A presidential library is a nonpartisan institution that acts as a repository for the papers, records, and historical materials of the president. Also included is a museum that typically tells the story of the presidency through exhibits, often interactive, timelines, and replicas, such as the Cabinet Room at the Clinton Presidential Library. Often connected to the library and museum is a museum store, restaurant, and event facilities, and educational and/or academic institutions, such as the Clinton School of Public Service at the Clinton Presidential Library. The connection to or affiliation with an academic institution is a critical building block of a presidential library. After developing our bid, the North Lawndale Presidential Library Committee partnered with the University of Illinois, Chicago, to provide that building block. UIC is an internationally renowned public research university in close proximity to North Lawndale, and as such, a valuable partner. Our site and its surroundings are ideal for the Obama Presidential Library. It is 23 acres of vacant city-owned land bounded by Roosevelt Road on the south, Costner Avenue on the west, Fifth Avenue on the north, and Kildare Avenue on the east. The Barack Obama Foundation is looking for a paradigm change. They want to set a new example of what a presidential library represents, an example that provides transformative change. The Obama Presidential Library should not just be located in a community, it should be part of and partner with the community. And why North Lawndale? Because we have the best response to setting a new example of what a presidential library could be. In this description of the library, the foundation says that it should be an economic engine. North Lawndale provides the perfect platform to set a new example for a presidential library and its positive impact on the community. With our 36,000 residents living in an area that once housed 120,000, North Lawndale has the physical space to employ innovative and sustainable development approaches that spur the growth of small businesses within the library's sphere of influence. The building principles issued by the Obama Foundation point to a celebration of existing community assets. North Lawndale's rich history provides a unique cultural and intellectual foundation, a profound sense of place, which will continue to build and shape our community's civic identity, which is another of the library's guiding principles. In his keynote speech at the Democratic National Convention in 2004, then Senate candidate Barack Obama said, "There's not a Black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian American. There's the United States of America." Although our current population is 94% African American, North Lawndale has a rich history as a home to many ethnicities and religions, and as well, it has its proximity to a large Hispanic community in Little Village and the multi-ethnic western suburbs. Placing the Presidential Library in North Lawndale acknowledges the contributions that the civil rights movement played in Barack's life and career, and also the important role North Lawndale played in the movement. Beginning in the 1950s, African Americans began moving to North Lawndale to escape the prejudices of the South and the crowded conditions of Chicago's South Side. Unfortunately, discrimination followed, bringing with it obstacles such as redlining, through which banks and insurance companies refused to service the area. A particularly offensive practice was contract buying. This involved unscrupulous sellers financing houses with contracts instead of mortgages for African American buyers, often foreclosing over one missed payment, and then reselling the same house with the same financial arrangement. In response, community organizers founded the Contract Buyers League to bring an end to this practice. The League brought the Gamaliel Foundation into existence, which in the early 90s hired Barack as a community organizer. The deteriorating housing situation in the 1960s caught the attention of Dr. King, who chose Chicago for his campaign to end slums in our northern cities. In 1966, he moved his family into a North Lawndale apartment for 1 year. This ultimately resulted in the Fair Housing Act of 1968. North Lawndale is the only place in the North where Dr. King and his family ever lived. The Barack Obama Presidential Library would find a perfect home in North Lawndale with its powerful cultural, intellectual, historic, architectural, and community organizing legacy. There are many aspects to this process. First, there was the request for qualifications response. That's what your community developed, and later incorporated into UIC's response. Now, the response to the request for proposals, which is a very technical piece, is being developed by UIC based on our previous joint bid. The timeline published by the Barack Obama Foundation lists December 11th as the deadline for the request for proposals. The Foundation and First Family plans to review, discuss, and negotiate the submittals of the 4 finalists. It is expected that the winner and site will be announced in March 2015. Where does the money come from? The project will be financed through private donations raised by the Obama Foundation. As the only community-based bid, with our long history of disenfranchisement, our site would provide an avenue to contributions that otherwise may remain untapped. These contributions would be similar to Barack's campaign contributions from everyday people like you and me. Our site could also draw the attention of humanitarian philanthropies, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. There may also be a need for infrastructure improvements around the library, which may be financed through funding from state and/or local governments. Those infrastructure improvements would need to be financed at one point or another, library or not. Once the library is in operation, it will be operated and maintained by the National Archives and Records Administration. We can expect upgrades to our infrastructure, such as open spaces, roads, sewer systems, and other utilities. To accommodate the numerous visitors to the Presidential Library, the public transit systems, such as the L and bus services, will be improved. This will provide us with better mobility to, from, and within our neighborhood. The Presidential Library is seeking excellence in new technology. With that, our community would benefit from potential access to fiber optic lines for ultra-high-speed internet. That in turn would not only benefit our students, but will also make our community very attractive to technology companies, startups, and entrepreneurial incubators. With it comes the opportunity for job training and employment. Local economic growth wouldn't be limited to the technology sector. Think about the conferences and symposia, national and international, that would be hosted in the library's event space. This would spur local tourism, which would create a need for the hospitality and restaurant industries. Do you own a Greystone? If so, You could open your own bed and breakfast to allow visitors to overnight near the library. And if we play it right, if we use our cultural and architectural assets, we can bring those tourists deep into our neighborhood where they would spend their money. Our partnership with UIC will bring untold educational opportunities that we can help shape. Why should we care? The foundation has made it clear in its guiding principles that the Obama Presidential Library should not just be in a community, it should be a partner with the community and offering transformative change. The library seeks to have a major positive impact, particularly in economic terms. The public and private investment will shore up our community and, most importantly, sustain resources, training, and jobs for the next generation, for our kids. We have the opportunity to shape that development process. Rather than having change happen to us, we can influence and guide that change and achieve development without displacement. Become an active member to help us reach that goal. We can be proud of our cultural and architectural heritage, but maintaining it, particularly our beautiful historic buildings, isn't cheap. The increased economic activity that the library would create could increase the local wealth and as such make it easier to build on and maintain the beauty of North Lawndale. This is what the Presidential Library could do for us. But let's also think about the line from John F. Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Or in our case, how are we as a community preparing for the Presidential Library? Thank you. In the PowerPoint, we talked about what the community could do to prepare itself, and to that end, I have a perfect example of that. A community group that I just recently became associated with, Men Making a Difference. And with the library, they have stepped forward and they've taken ownership of it. And I'm asking all of you to do the same thing that they did. Take ownership of it. Decide how you want to use this. This is a powerful tool. So from Men Making a Difference, here's Charlie Wilson.
Thank you, Paul. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Normally, when someone hear my name, Charlie Wilson, you know, some of the younger generation, I give a chuckle, you know, I get a laugh because this is famous up the Gap Band, yes, you know. And I always tell them that, no, that's not me, I'm the other Charlie Wilson, you know, so. And yes, I am, we was a part of, first of all, let me start it right. My name, yes, is Charlie Wilson. I'm a retired UAW International Representative from the United Auto Workers. I am a member of CAP with the UAW, which stands for Community Action Program, and PAC also. I'm also a member of the Civil Rights of the UAW, and that's covered 9 states throughout our country. So I used to be the coordinator for that before I retired, but now I'm just a member. I would say, about May of this year, one of the co-founders of MAD, and I would like for the MAD men to stand so y'all can see who we're talking about, if y'all don't mind. And it's more of us, it's some that work and they couldn't get here, but we are a community-based organization where we begin to have conversation among ourselves and made a decision that, you know, we are extremely tired of having the women that is in these neighborhoods be stands up and take all of the blunt, and us men sitting down and not doing anything. So we made a decision, myself and Robert Calhoun, which is one of the co-founders of it, and Terrence Tribble is another co-founder. We made a decision that we want to do something about that. As Paul was stating about our particular neighborhood, you know, we do have a very enriched neighborhood in the North Lawndale area. It have a lot of history. If you go back, I've been in the neighborhood some 40 some odd years, and it's the only neighborhood I ever lived in. When I came to Chicago, 1971. I live here and never moved because I love this neighborhood. And we have a responsibility to the neighborhood. We have a responsibility to the citizens that live there. And anytime there's something that come along to give us an opportunity to show our responsibility, show our appreciation to them, we should take advantage of that. I had been hearing about the Presidential Library, and we began to talk about it. We began to hear other people play it up and some play it down. But as we invested a little bit more about it, we found out that this would be an excellent, enriched idea that would come to the North Lawndale area. So the Mad Men's, and I have a hard, sometimes I have to defend the name Mad Men's because sometimes y'all think that we have an attitude, but we don't. Men's making a difference. This is where we just want to stand up and take back the neighborhood that we are so involved with. And the only way we can do that is we have to stand up. One of the cliches that we use and is the fact that when men stands up, boys sit down. And this is our attitude toward this. And like I was saying earlier, and once we heard about the Presidential Library, and we were introduced to Paul by a good friend of ours, a mutual friend, and from that point forward, we've been partnered up with Paul and them in order to try to make sure that this comes as a reality for us. And we doing this whatever we can. Now, this is, as Paul was stated, this is not the Mad Men initiative to do this. This process had been in place already. But as we saw that it's a great benefit for our neighborhood, we decided to come on board and try to do whatever it is that we could do in order to help them, to assist them in whatever way that we can. Saturday that just passed, we had a rally at the site where we had hot chocolates standing out in the cold weather where people come by, we actually blow their horns. We was giving them literature for this particular night because we believe in what they are doing. And this town hall meeting tonight is also to try to encourage you guys and everyone who will listen is to take initiative and to believe in it also. It will definitely benefit not only North Lawndale, it will benefit Chicago, and it also will benefit the state of Illinois. So we asking you all to work diligently to do whatever you can in your own community, to talk it up, speak about it, get on Facebook, encourage other people to do the same thing, because it will be a great thing for us to have here. So we partnered ourselves up with Paul and them in order to try to make sure we bring this to a reality for us. And we just asking y'all to do the same thing. You know, it's something would be great. And we speak about our children, you know, this would be a legacy for them going forward, that they will be able to be a part of this particular history. And then just take a look at how it will improve your neighborhood where you're living at by this library being here. There might be some discussions about whether or not we're going to be displaced, but I hope in the breakout session, those questions will come up and they will be addressed to the point whether or not you will be displaced, because we have the land. The land is right there and is there for that purpose. And I think that I heard Sister Barbara Steele was talking about that Jesus Christ only had 12 disciples and they changed the world. And that is absolutely true. We have the land that has been sitting there for this purpose. God put that land there for this purpose, for that particular library to be built there. So the only thing that we have to do is continue to have the faith that it will be placed there, and we do as a community whatever is necessary in order to try to make sure to come to fruition. So we encourage you guys, everyone, to help us bring that particular library here. It will be a momentous thing that we can do for ourselves and for the legacy for our children. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And Valerie Leonard.
Hi. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, I'm Valerie Leonard, a lifelong resident of North Lawndale. I want to, first of all, thank Paul Norrington for having the vision. I called him Don Quixote ever since 2009. And for those of you who may not be familiar, Don Quixote was the guy who would go and he would pretend like he was a knight and he would try to knock down windmills, try to take them with his lance or whatever. And it just seemed like such an impossible thing. So we laughed at them for 4 years, just about. And here we are, finalists. And nobody thought it was possible at first but Paul. So I really want to thank you again, Paul, for your vision. Want to do a little housekeeping. I don't know if you had a chance to look in your packets. The last page in most of your packets should be a survey. Before you leave, please complete that survey. It's very important that we get as much input about this project as possible. We want to take those comments and we want to share those with the University of Illinois. Their bid is due December 11th, so that's Thursday. We don't have very much time. They've been getting input, I guess for the past few months, but we want to make sure that everybody here has a chance to weigh in on that bid. And then also, I wanted to acknowledge Commissioner Steele. Commissioner Steele, would you don't want to stand? He's so bashful. Okay. Everything that we've ever wanted him to do, whether it was a popular thing, whether it's stepping in the middle of the fire, I'm usually asking him to do the difficult stepping in the fire kind of stuff. But here we're doing something very positive that the community can really rally around. But he's been here from the beginning. I don't think he ever called Paul Don Quixote. So we thank you. Thank you very much for your support and your chip off the old block. Thank you, President Steele, for your support. So now I want to just talk about why we're here. Before we go into our breakout sessions, I know that everyone is going to have some questions. We got about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes at the most to ask some questions. So if you have a question, if you could line up for the mic and then ask your question from the floor, and to the best of our ability, we're going to answer it. Now you should know that even though this is the Presidential Library Committee, we're not official representatives, from the University of Illinois. We are engaged citizens just like you are. We took it upon ourselves to learn as much as we could about the library, but we don't have an inside track. So we're going to answer the questions to the best of our ability. Anything we can't answer, we're going to make sure that we ask folks at University of Illinois, and hope and pray that we get our answers. They can't reveal everything because this is a very competitive process, but we want to make this process for us as a community as transparent as possible. We want to make sure there's as much accountability as possible, and the only way we can do that is first to ask questions. Okay, so if you have questions, I'm going to ask that you please come around and line up, and then we'll just go first come, first serve. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna Maria. I live on Douglas and Homan, and I have to agree with everyone's statements that North Lawndale is probably one of the best place to have it because everything is very accessible. My question is, I manage the edible landscaping department from Christy Weber Landscapes. And she's a $45 million company, very much engaged in the West Side. And my question is, are there gardens? Is urban agriculture part of the plan, since Michelle Obama is very much into health and beautification?
I will pick this one up. Or if you don't mind, reading the RFQ, the request for qualification that was submitted by the Obama Foundation, they have a section there that's called Guiding Principles. The Guiding Principles basically lay the foundation of what they expect the library to be and to provide. And if you read those Guiding Principles, then I think the aspect of health, gardens, greenery is definitely a very important part to the foundation. And they also want to make sure, if you read through the principles, that the landscape and the building work in concert. Not that there's just landscape and building, but that the two flow into each other. So if you believe what they have in the principles, then yes, I think what you just asked, if you could get that, I think they want that too. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and Christy said that she would be very much on board to have us be part of that, the design for that. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ralph Wilson. I was just wondering if the committee had done any research on any historical sites or whatever that are also located in the North Lawndale area. That you know, if the library is here, you could also point out the fact that there are other sites that people might want to see that are in close proximity. For example, on Cermak Road, just west of Costner, there used to be a plant called Western Electric. Western Electric is where the psychiatrists and psychologists did a lot of research to figure out how to make you human robots when you worked in factories on assembly lines. That's where they came up with ideas and they experimented with it. Near the corner of Costner and Roosevelt, just north of Roosevelt, east of Costner, there used to be a plant called Shelley Dryer. Did anybody know about it? Really? Shelley Dryer. Shelley Dryer was the world's largest manufacturer of rubber gloves. All right, how long you been in Lawndale? Huh? No, okay. Since '57, okay. Now, oh God, I can't think of the name of the place, but further east on Ogden Avenue between Kildare and Pulaski, there was a company there, I'll get the name of it, I have it at home, that used to be, it's on the south side of Ogden, was the world's largest manufacturer of picture frames. Oh, Turner. Was it Turner's? Yeah, there's something over there. See, so there are a lot of different sites, and if I'm not mistaken, I'll have to do some more research on it. There was a library here where the former female prime minister of Israel, Golda Meir, was a librarian right here on the west side. There should be quite an input or interest in that library being in Lawndale by members of the Jewish community. Okay? There is a lot of Jewish history in Lawndale. Believe me, a tremendous amount. And so I'm a little surprised that the mayor is not more involved in stuff being in Lawndale. So I think it would, it might help things if we do more research to find out more historical things that was located here or what have you, because some of this stuff has been torn down. But there are pictures somewhere. Believe me, anything you think that was ever in Chicago, go to the Chicago Historical Museum down on Clark and North Avenue. I bet if there's 1,000 people in here, 999 of them have never been to it. So you really don't know Chicago. You might think you know Chicago. You know about Chicago. So I think we could do some research by finding those things out, because when people go places, a lot of times they like to be able to do like a tour, because you'll notice with the museum types that they started this concept of a museum campus. For example, Soldier Field, the planetarium, the aquarium, the natural history museum. Do any of you all remember when Lakeshore Drive used to be on the between Soldier Field and the lake? Not between Soldier Field and the railroad tracks? You don't remember that? Oh my God, am I aging myself?
Okay, thank you very much, and I mean, really thank you. I'm glad you brought up the topic of history, because as it turns out, the North Lawndale Presidential Library Committee was formed by the K-Town Historic District Association, which I'm a co-founder and vice president. The K-Town Historic District was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2010. We also have in the audience the president of the, and the other co-founder of the of KTHDA, Tawana Calvin. It was the pursuit of our historic designation that really set the brain to working on what else is possible. If my neighborhood where I grew up, and I played on the streets, running up and down the streets and going to Mason and Corkery and Farragut, if that area could be placed on the National Register of Historic Places, what else was possible for North Lawndale? And then the Presidential Library came along. So yes, history is a very big part of what we're doing, and just like Charlie Wilson and men making a difference and taking it upon themselves to do what it is they can do with this great tool. I'm asking you, if your interest is history and pulling up all the rich history of North Lawndale and putting it out there, this is the time to do it, because right now is when the nation is listening. Okay.
My name is Cesar. I have a very short question. What are the new things that we are going to have to improvise starting December 11th so that we can get this going?
If any of you have noticed what's going on with the South Side, so we have the University of Hawaii, you have Columbia University of New York, University of Chicago, and us. University of Chicago is a rich private institution. It's a world-class elite institution. People come from all over the world to try to get there. It has more Nobel Prize winners than most institutions anywhere in the world. But along with that, well, in contrast to that, we have University of Illinois, which is a public institution. It doesn't have the money that University of Chicago has. Well, University of Chicago, with all of their money and prestige and connections and long, rich history, is located on the South Side. The South Side has always had more money than the West Side. The South Side is larger than the West Side. So we have University of Chicago, a rich institution. We have the South Side comparatively rich when it comes to us. And we have the poor University of Illinois, along with the poor West Side of Chicago. So those are the two that are standing against each other. If you've noticed any publicity lately, you've seen probably some pretty glitzy stuff coming out about the South Side and the South Side's bid. They have the money, they have the connections for that. What we have is you. So what I'm asking for after the 11th, actually after today, when you go home today, get started on this. What can you do? Can you do a YouTube? Can you get your students together? Can you go out and ask all of the aldermanic candidates that are currently running for 24th Ward? Ask them, what are they doing for the library? What do they think about the library? And what are they going to do to help promote it? And go to our Facebook page, North Lawndale Presidential Library, our Twitter account at NLOPL for North Lawndale Obama Presidential Library. And we now have a website also, North Lawndale Presidential Library.org.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, and Val? And if you know, we are available to go anywhere where there are 10 or more people who want to hear more about this. As Bobby said, both of us are retired, and both of us are retired from Cook County. But this has become kind of a job. I have dedicated myself to this, so if you have a group of 10 or more people that wants to hear more, I'm available to do that.
She was saying something else.
Go ahead.
You know, I have a question, and that is, do we really want this library? And the other question I have is, a library for who? On a daily basis, I work in the Cook County courts, 11th floor housing courts. And I'm watching my community slowly be wiped out. In Lawndale, over 500 properties are slated to be demolished. One was just demolished across the street from your house. Down the street from your house. And so the question is, what preliminary safeguards are in place, on top of the other two questions I asked, what preliminary safeguards are in place to prevent gentrification? Because anything that UIC and University of Chicago is involved with is about gentrification. Anything that they're involved in. If you look at what happened along Halsted, they wiped the people out in the Italian community. If you look at around University of Chicago, they wiped the people out. And so when it comes to these universities, and not just these universities, but also these community organizations, these housing organizations, because I watch NHS and CIC and all these different groups work in the courts who on the front end get you to give you all your give them all your information, and then they become receivers and take your properties. I'm in court, I'm watching them every single day do this to our parents and grandparents. So what safeguards are in place? There's a $40 million Chicago State project coming to the old Sears building. We're not at the table. So who is this library for? I mean, when we talk about a pretty new community, if we're not here, to hell with a pretty new community. And knowing what's going on and watching different players who I know are directly involved with the wiping out of the community, you all better be careful what you wish for. Be very careful. Not that I'm against the library, but if we're not in control of the process, especially the development process, we are going to be wiped out. Plain and simple. So once again, who is this library for? And do we really want this library? Thanks.
I think Mark raised a very, very good question, and those are discussions that we have had around the table, and we don't have control. And I think it's really important, and I agree wholeheartedly with what Mark said, if we as a community don't take control of the development, then the development is going to push us out. One thing that we thought about is community benefits agreements, and we're not necessarily talking about something that is not binding. You know, typically when you do an MOU or a memorandum of understanding, you know, people can honor it or they can choose not to honor it. What we need to do is organize to make sure that there's a legally binding agreement that will put protections in place. You know, for example, you know, property taxes are going to naturally rise. So what protections can we put in place to put a freeze on the tax rates around there? You know, typically like you would do around a tip, but then even that in itself is not enough, because you could freeze the tax rate, but you could change the assessment and people still get priced out. So we really need to look at this comprehensively, look at, you know, what happens with property values, and you want your property values to go up, but you don't want a situation where people are being priced out. Another thing that Mark would always warn us about is not so much property taxes, is, you know, look at the building code violations. You know, when we were looking at the TIF stuff a few years ago, we're focused so much on the properties that could be potentially displaced because of dilapidation. But Mark said, well, what about those 600 properties where they got violations that nobody's thinking about? So we really need to work and educate our property owners to make sure that they're aware of, you know, what's coming down the pipe so they can protect themselves. And there's also, you know, eminent domain. Unfortunately, that's something that is not avoidable, especially if they're looking at going from the lakefront north to 290, south to Roosevelt, and west to city limits. So we who are in this room need to really start, planning and trying to, advocate for some protections. And, the housing is just one piece. Another piece that bothers us is jobs. Typically when we hear about tips, they say, oh, they're selling tips because there are going to be jobs. But jobs, we look at the zip codes, and people from our zip codes aren't getting the jobs. So we really need to be focused about what it is that we want, what are some of the things that could adversely impact it, and how do we address those. And we don't have all of those answers. Part of what we'll talk about in our next 20 minutes of breakout will be that, but we know 20 minutes is not enough. So I'm hoping that everybody has signed up, because clearly we need to have more meetings and some more comprehensive planning about this. Okay. Did that answer your question, Mark? Maybe not satisfactorily, but I answered your question, right?
And also to that, and this is just, again, I'm just a block person. But when this first popped in my head, the thought of what could happen in North Lawndale with unbridled gentrification entered my mind. I've never heard this proposed, but I'm sure it's been used in other places. If I took a look at my property taxes for the last 10 years and saw how much it increased over that 10-year period, and what was the average increase of that? Well, my property should be held and locked into that rate of property tax increase, so it doesn't jump way out beyond my ability to pay. So let's say it's increased over the last 10 years, 2% a year or 1% a year. And I'm locked into that for the rest of the time that I own that property. And that gives, if I were a younger person and I had kids, that would give me time to raise my kids with an eye toward going to college. So when they came back from college, they would be able to afford to live in North Lawndale at the current rates, at the prevailing economic level when they get back. And the same thing for renters. How much has rent gone over the last 10 years or 20 years? And what is that percentage? Well, then lock it into that. And those renters can stay for the rest of their lives in that apartment with those incremental increases over the years. That's just my idea. But the whole idea behind this is that this bid belongs to the community. And I can't stress that enough. Take ownership of this. What do you want to do with it? What kind of protections do you see need to be put into place? And put those protections in place. There's no big institution over here making decisions for you on this. It's up to you how you use this. This is something you work for, earn, and now you have. Do something with it.
My name is Elbert Muhammad, lifelong resident of North Lawndale. A couple of things that kind of crossed my mind as this was going on. Reality is you all don't have any information about anything that's pertinent, from my understanding. I don't see you all being able to tell us anything about anything. All you're saying is that we don't have that information. I guess the next question would be, who has that information? And maybe we need to sit with those people and talk to those people. If I'm not mistaken, at one time, and we have our elected officials here, and a lot of those questions they may be able to answer and be better suited to fight that fight for you. Because my daddy used to say, a car has one steering wheel for a reason, all right? You can't have all heads and no tail, all right? It doesn't work that way. So somebody's got to be out front and somebody has to speak. This is why we elect our officials, to do that speaking for us, all right? So I don't want people to sell you no pipe dream. Reality is, if it's 30 people in here and 30 people have different ideas of what they want, somebody's idea is going to get kicked to the curb. And we got to understand that, okay? I've been watching this thing in the background for a little bit here, and I'm glad this is a a town hall meeting piece because there was another committee that I believe this committee was a part of, and then this committee branched away from them. And I'm trying to figure out why now? Why, when that committee, and you were a part of that committee, did you choose to separate and divide our community? That's bananas. It's the same crab in the barrel mentality. A lot of you all don't know that probably, because the same people who probably invited you today purposely didn't invite you to the last one to separate you. And if you think I'm lying, do your research. And that's a shame. We fight so hard and we talk that talk, but when it comes to unity, the reality is we don't want unity because it takes a little bit too much work and we out here for our damn self. You can agree with it or disagree with it, but it's the truth and it's a bitter pill to swallow. Be careful of a wolf in sheep's clothing, all right? And I say that, and I'm not trying to knock. I love the idea of the Obama Library. I think it's a beautiful concept. I think it'd be great. I know it will be great, okay? But there's a bigger picture here. Why are we having all of these separate meetings? We need to get back with one another, talk to one another, get on the same track with where you started. Because see, there is an Obama Library Committee. There is a person that represents in UIC, okay, that talks with UIC regularly. People were a part of that. Mr. Norrington, I applaud you for the vision. There are a lot of people who have visions, and I'm an old football player. I got a head coach, all right? And I got some guy who will drum up a play. But eventually, you got to get out there and make it work. Otherwise, it sits on paper. Your vision is beautiful, but there are people who have the legwork. Some young men that I read about them in the paper, I think it was Mr. Betts and Mr. Tillis, and it was a few more, Tillis, whatever. Yeah, it was a few more guys out here working. Young men, loving their community, not getting a dime for this. Really out here for it, and then I come to find out that you all were a part of that. Why did you break off? Why couldn't we just stay one united North Lawndale? Why couldn't we do that for one time? Instead of the crab in the barrel and cutting each other at the knees in self-interest. It's sad, and it's the same damn story every single time. Why? Why should it be like that? And sometimes we're gonna have differences, but we still got to get to the table and deal. And then we put it off on other communities or other races and other cultures and say, well, they work it out. Well, we need to work it out. We need to work it out. And we're gonna work it out. Because come hell or high water, one or two things will happen. Either pressure will break you or it'll make you a diamond. And you'll find out now where you are. We aren't promised anything, but we put the effort. We play like we're gonna win the game, even though we play with the number 20 team, and we're gonna play the number 1 team, we play to win. So that's what North Lawndale has to do collectively. And I hope after tonight that the forces that be will come together with the ones that are out there already, making it happen. So don't think that it's not somebody out there who doesn't have these answers. I believe it's something coming up on Thursday. Something big coming up on Thursday that you guys should be aware of. Press conference and things like that will be going out about the whole proposal and the bid. Okay? I think that's going to be great. And I want to see these same people there because I'm going to be there. All right? I'm going to make my way there. All right? Absolutely. We make sure that that message gets to everybody. Mr. Norrington, you'll get that. And whoever else it is, but this is the point person from this part of it. This can't stay like this. Everybody got to get together. Mr. Norrington has you all's information. You all have that sign-in sheet, right? You all gonna have all of that, their emails and all that stuff there? Can you promise me, give me your word, my name is Elba Muhammad. If I find out, I'll send it to you. Okay, my word is my bond and my bond is life. I will make sure that he gets that information and he's making it his word and he's gonna get it to you. Is that fair enough? Fair enough. Okay then, we live by it.
Mr. Muhammad, I couldn't have said a lot better, but thank you for your words of the heart. I'm Robert Steele. I'm one of your elected officials from your neighborhood. I'm your county commissioner. He's right. We have a divided community around some of the plans that are going on around this library. We're going to bring it together. Let me say this to you, and thank you, Mark, for your comment. Yeah, we're going to bring it together because you have voices, and I'm one of your voices. Right. I'm one of your voices. Right. And I plan to use my voice on your behalf. I plan to be at UIC as they were at my office today. Right. I met with them on Friday. The plan, let me say this, and it ain't dangerous now. This is reality. Amen. There's a gift that comes with this office, and it opens doors for you. And I want to continue to open doors for you. This is going to be packaged tomorrow, Paul, at UIC, this plan. So whatever we're going to write tonight needs to be at UIC tomorrow with our voices and our understanding and our opinions and whatever it is we want to have to be a part of this planning process needs to be there tomorrow because the packaging is happening tomorrow in preparation for the submission to that committee. That's the reality, folks. I got letters from the president of our board today and my office that is going into that package, along with the mayor's letter that I saw at my office today, that's already moving forward. And the mayor and the president gave a very strong letter of support to North Lawndale on this packaging. So things are moving, folks, and we have opportunity here. Paul, thank you for your work and your vision for this. Because one thing that I believe that Paul said most popular about this, whether we get it or not, it helps to drive us to do something special about our community. We get off our butts and we begin to make it happen internally. And that's why I'm here. I'm a resident of this community. That's my mom up there. But 53 years I've lived here. I know no other home place. This is all I know. You guys are my neighbors and I plan to continue to be your neighbor. But I want to use my voice on behalf of this project and this rebuilding opportunity for our community. So let's do and put everything on the side about ourselves so we can get in the room together, folks, and make the best of this opportunity we have right now. Yes, that's before us. That young man talked about a lot of history here. There's a whole lot of history here that we haven't shared. WLS radio station was started in this neighborhood. Right here, world largest store, Sears. That's what WLS stands for. World largest store. The oldest steel company in America. Right here, North Lawndale, Ryerson Steele. Right here in this neighborhood. And we can go on and on and on about the first things about this neighborhood. But it don't work if we ain't packaging that stuff and telling that story. So we're the storytellers, y'all. We're the storytellers. And so let's make this story a real story for our community. And I'm going to be able to be that linchpin for getting the other electeds off and into the room to make sure we represent you in the right way. Yes, sir. I'm talking to our state rep. I've talked to the alderman. I've talked to the alderman. But I've talked to your state rep. He's behind this. He's in Springfield right now, but he's behind this. And there is some partnerships going on behalf of our, we're bringing the resources from our different departments of government, our levels of government to the table, y'all. And so we're gonna make this a strong proposal to make sure we get the best opportunity to get that library and to get the economic development and not get the displacement that Mark's talking. That's real. Amen. That's real. What he talked about is real. And some of us know that, and we've been here through that. But you have a voice, folks, and I want to leave that with you. You have a voice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Beatrice Boyes. And the question I have, Paul, is first I want to, address an issue that Valerie brought up, which is the community benefits agreement. Being part of the Lawndale Greater Black Chamber of Commerce, we were one of the first entities to introduce a community benefits agreement to Lawndale as related to the UCAN project. So that is, a good, entity or tool to use to make sure that the community is involved in the construction and development of the project. So my question moving forward is putting the proposal together, for the bid to bring it here. But then after that, is there a management staff put together to make sure that the construction and the development of the library includes the community so that we partake in the jobs and opportunities, because that's where we get left out a lot. And if we do implement a community benefits agreement, make sure that it's a wholehearted, full-fledged legal document to say that we're part of the construction and all the resources that go into that library to make sure that the community the African American businesses that are part of the community participate in the economic development and the resources of that project. So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay. One of the things that we're about is transparency. As you've all heard in one way or another, that this all started back in 2009, and went around to talking to people everywhere I could about the library, including some of the people that were mentioned a little bit earlier. And it hit a brick wall because none of them cared. None of them saw that it meant anything. It wasn't until this year, April 11th to be exact, that I was able to finally bring those people to the table, including some of the people that were mentioned earlier. And the fact that they were brought to the table for their skills. I didn't just go out and grab people off the street. I picked people. I said, yeah, this would be good for the library committee. You would be good for the library committee. You would be good for the library committee. So we got 11 people together to sit around the table and to work toward this for North Lawndale. However, at some point, everybody had assignments on this committee. Everybody had work that they had to do. Some names that are mentioned tonight did none of that work.
I don't think that's true.
Did none of that.
Let him speak. Let him speak.
No, that's not fair. That's not fair. Don't do that. Don't discredit those guys. They've done a lot of work. No, that's unfair. That's unfair. Don't do that. That's unfair. It's not
Let him speak.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's understand what he's saying. Come on, Bob. Let's understand what he's saying before we get comments on it.
My apologies.
I think, to me, the biggest picture that we lose here is that we have lost our elected officials in this neighborhood. As Mr. Norrington is saying, he's been doing this since 2009, and I'm telling you, it hasn't been since this year since I've even heard about this library. You can't call Chandler. I mean, where are all the elected officials at tonight? You said our representative, Art Turner Jr., he's in Springfield. Where are you guys at? And this goes back to even aldermen of this ward. Now that Chandler has decided that he's not running, it's time for the people in this ward to stand up and start polling these people who running for office. We need to know what they stand for. If we can't even get them out to help us try to get something like this in our neighborhood for our kids, at least they'll have something to say, we have this in our neighborhood. We need stuff in this neighborhood, but if we can't count on our elected officials until the 24th hour, I mean, it's not doing us any good. UIC, they not here. They separated from this guy who started this from the get-go. They kicked this man out of the group.
That's not true.
And now, why they not here? I was at the last meeting and they were there. They didn't even acknowledge this man. They didn't even say that this was his idea. I was there. I was at the last minute. Well, where? They did not give this man his recognition. But getting back to it, the bottom line is, the people in this ward, we need to start polling our elected officials. We need to know what they're doing and what they're doing for the people, because Chandler is not here. So, I mean, what's next? What's next?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Robert Calhoun Sr., a 61-year on December the 17th resident of 16th and Holman. Mad men, they call me Peter, because until we stop pointing the finger, get beside ourselves and listen to our spiritual speaking telling us we have to come together. We have to come together because we all we got. If we keep saying you ain't doing this, you ain't doing that, that's why the madman was created, to stand in the place, to back our people. We are a community group. We ain't owned by nobody. We're not owned by anybody. We're not chosen by anybody. We go where we're called. So she made a call, you made a call, he made a call, call us. And we'll stand and fight with you when you're right.
All right, now, talk to me.
Right means I'm not going to kick my brother down. I'm going to grab him and hold him and say, brother, please, we have a difference. You and I need to work this out because we have people that need our service.
Together.
Together. So we need to stop pointing the finger, kicking each other down because that only makes that gap go like this.
All right. That's where we're at right now.
And a man died on the cross for us to bring us back like this.
All right.
Whether you believe it or not, I do.
That's what he did.
Because I'm a living witness today that with God on our side, not only the library, not only our homes, not only the jobs, this community will grow.
All right, check me out just for a couple of minutes. In the Bible, it says the devil is the author of confusion. Yes. There has been a lot of confusion about this. We have lost sight of the vision. In 2008, we were able to see the very first black man elected president of these United States of America. And the vision is to make sure that this rich community and culture embraced a vision of having a library that our children and our grandchildren and our neighbors and the rest of Chicago can see what we have done to make the vision come to pass. It's not about us. It's not about each side. It's not about K-Town, about North Lawndale, about Roosevelt, or about 16th Street. It's about giving homage and paying homage to a visionary. And this was brought through a vision that God has given no matter what man. But if we don't stand together and to make sure this vision come to pass, it's all for naught. Let's not get our personal emotions and feelings in this. We're going to write it down on the table, but let's just make this vision come to pass. We have seen history in 2008, and we want to have it come to pass in 2016. Amen? Amen. Come on, y'all.
It's one thing I want to address. Ms. Boyd, she asked a question about the job situation in terms of if once this library come here, are we going to be shut out in regards to whether we have jobs? It's one thing that the Madmen have done. We have instituted the initiative to have a student sign-in program where we go to different peoples, and we have a relationship with Dawson Institution in order to try to get young men and women into Dawson so they be able to be trained. So whenever these jobs come available, not only for this particular project, but anytime there's a job situation open to come in Chicago, any kind of development in Chicago, and we have the necessary workforce trained, they will be able to get into the high-paying job. They can be able to get themselves off the corner, you know, so they be able to take care of their family. So the Madmen's, we have a relationship with Dawson Institution in order to make sure that happens. I think Wednesday we have a meeting with the young gentleman over there to view their facility so that we'll be able to accommodate. And, you know, we have to take the initiative ourselves if we want to better ourselves. We got to go back to school. We need to train ourselves. You know, there are a lot of jobs out there, but how many people that really actually going looking for them? How many people are preparing themselves for those jobs? You know, we can sit here and we can criticize there's not enough job, but what are you doing as an individual to make sure that you get a job? As I stated, I'm a retired international representative for the UAW. I represented thousands of people in many companies throughout Chicagoland and different other suburbs where I had hundreds and thousands of jobs where I helped people keep and for them to get. And we sent people to school, we trained people to make sure that they was qualified for different jobs when they come up. So, but yourself, we have to take the initiative to go to school yourself in order to be able to be prepared so when an opportunity comes, you're ready for it. They always told me it's better to prepare for opportunity that never happened If an opportunity come along and you're unprepared for it. So the Madmen's is trying to institute this here student initiative where we can get you into Dawson, not only Dawson, into CNC, other jobs opportunity if you want to take advantage of it. But it's got to be you. We can't knock on your door and drag you out, but we hope that you will come and seek us out, and we will be able to walk you to these facilities so you can be trained, and you could be ready for not only the presidential library when they come here, but other institutions that want to be built here, where we gonna be, what we can be encouraging, Brother Steele, what we be encouraging that those people hire a certain amount of people from the community in order for that project to go. But we have to be trained for it. Right. If you're not trained, then what else could you say?
Well, just to piggyback on my question, this project gets a lot bigger than that. It first starts with the construction company that is used to do the general construction of the facility itself. If it's a union construction company, then in a lot of cases they lose. I work among African American contractors every day, by the hundreds, who have the skills, who have the credentials, but are yet blocked out of the construction projects, once because of their color, and second because they're not part of the union. So training young men to become part of the construction process is only one small phase of it. But there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger scope when you're looking at projects this big. Trust me. So you have to be in the forefront of that to make sure that the community is included on an overall level. There are a lot of us that's ready. There are a lot of us that's been ready for years and prepared and ready to go to work. But because of the racial profiling of African American men in the construction industry, we're not participating in it wholeheartedly. But if we get in front of it and we direct it from the beginning, then we drive it to the end.
And I think I must cut this off. Right here. But I think if we paid attention to some of the things that Paul was saying, is the fact that we should prepare ourselves. We should put safeguards in place to make sure that going forward that we can have a way around these situations, a way that we can confront these situations where we make it better for us. It seemed like, I hope everybody don't think that just because of the fact that we try and get this purpose library, that we just automatically gonna just lay down and let everybody do it on their own without having some input in it. So if you listen to what Paul was saying, based on the fact that we want to put safeguards in place, we want to put things in place so that when we are confronted with these type of situations, we can address them, make sure that our people be prepared. There might be a lot of people prepared, but the fact of it is we don't have enough prepared. So we need to get more people prepared for jobs. There are many jobs throughout the city of Chicago. If they have to, in order for us to qualify for them, there's a couple of things that is a requirement we can't pass. We need to clean ourselves up, put ourselves in a better position so that when those opportunities come, we can take full advantage of it. We can argue that point, that we are ready for those jobs. We can argue that point. I know Mr. Carter, he have a way of making industry like that would come in the bill to pay attention to what he's saying. But by the same token, when he do that, we need to have someone there that is qualified to take on those jobs. That's right. And the only way you can do that, we can't do it by talking, we got to do it for you to get up and go to school. There you go. That's it, bro.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Terrence. I'm one of the co-founders of MAD. I've heard a whole lot of conversation tonight about economic this, develop that. All that is important to a certain extent. A library, I don't care if it's a presidential library, a public library, whatever. What's important is there's a place for our children to go. There's a place for our children to learn to read, to learn to pay attention to something other than the thong song, other than Lil Wayne, other than things that's causing them to pick up these guns and kill each other. So a presidential library will bring a place to put 400 or 500 children where we don't have to go to 400 or 500 more funerals of our children, because they'll have some place to try to learn how to do something different. See, what we need to bring to the community is something different. The only thing they know is pulling their pants down, smoking a blunt. If we was to go out there and get in their ear the way we're in each other's ears, then we'll make a difference. Let's get a presidential library so that we can bring our community back together. Not from the top to the bottom. We're gonna bring it from the bottom to the top because it's our children that's out here suffering. I'm for the presidential library because it's gonna help my grandbaby. Come on, boo.
Okay, and I wish that this hadn't come up, but it did come up, and I'm gonna try to do this as the reason why we're here is because we want the community's input. When UIC had the town hall meeting, they had input from their attendees. The town hall meeting that I went to, there was no chance for that. It was just more of an informational thing. We wanted to have community engagement from the start. And so now that's what we're doing. There are many aspects to getting this library. And it cannot be focused on one individual or one group. That's why I keep saying to you, please get out there and do something. Take ownership of this. This isn't mine. And Mr. Muhammad it's not his. It's yours. Please take onyship. I want to thank Lou Malnati's for providing us with, or helping us with the pizza. I want to thank North Lawndale College Prep for this wonderful space and those great kids that they gave us to help out. Our elected official, Mr. Steele, our esteemed past retired president of the Cook County Board, Bobby Steele, and men making a difference, because tonight they did.